Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. In today's video, I want to highlight a defensive game of mine versus none other than Masao, 101's captain, fellow streamer, and a great aggro player. Now, here I will decide to go for Elite Spec, one of my favorite specialists. It is a bit tricky to play, but in this video, I hope that I can show you that it can work if you know what you're doing. Now, my starting pack here is very good. Keep in mind that I will often prioritize packs that do have chaff, because buying level 2 chaff, unless it's crawlers, can be a bit painful, so having those deployments already from your starting pack can be very nice as elite. Now, we have a good matchups here. Granted, my opponent is speed spec with steel balls and crawlers, but Sledgehammer Fang, I think, is one of the best packs to be able to counter that. And I'm pulling out a bit of a classic position here in the defense, where we are trying to get these pulls. So no matter where my opponent is going to be, as long as I'm 5 squares from the tower, and 2 squares in, that is the minimum distance that these fangs have to be, they will pull any units my opponents can put, whether they're all the way on the line on round 2 or all the way here on the back left corner. Doesn't matter which side, this will get pulled towards here instead of going for tower. So it's a nice round 1 position in the center. I decided to go for 2 arc lights. Elite is very strong with those arc lights if you can purchase them on round 1. And with triple crawler, I don't really trust my sledgehammers to be able to deal with everything. And yeah, I mean, arc lights have really good DPS, to be honest, especially if you are already ahead of the curve. I mean, look at that splash. You managed to hit like 3 steel balls there with 1 shot, and these are just crushing on round 1 here. And you can see all of his units, even though they did go asymmetrical, get pulled towards the center and they avoid my tower. And with the remaining sledge and arc light, that is a very comfortable round 1. So we've already managed to win the round where our opponent is supposed to be, or have an advantage, right? Since he is kind of overloading one side and we don't know where he is. But this way we are able to already kind of stabilize. And that's very, very useful when you're elite, because elite spec doesn't like being behind. But if it can be in the driver's seat, it is a very, very powerful specialist. Round 2 here, nothing looks too interesting. Advanced missile device could be useful. However, if I skip, I get 450 resources, and usually round 2 is very awkward on elite, because you can't really unlock a new 300 cost and then still get your 2 deployments in. You also can't triple recruit 150 costs. So usually picking on round 2 is quite useful on elite if a card seems useful to you. However, here I can actually get away with just purchasing one of my starting units, which is going to be a level 2 sledge and then 1 more arc light. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm putting this on the outside, and the idea is to defend this diagonal here, because obviously my opponent can buy a mobile beacon and try to kind of circumvent this pull that's going on that we initiated on round 1. This way, even a beacon here should kind of get stopped dead in its tracks. That's the main idea. Of course, another arc light here, super useful against his whole board. Opponent decides to go for a Phoenix. Very aggressive positioning there on the left. But we do have some fangs, and yeah, here I know that this could be an option, but having the fangs, especially on the right side here, these should be quite safe. And if I just manage to win the ground, then I think my fangs should be able to dispatch of this. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, you can see the sledgehammers there, just really good at stopping the steel balls from getting to the tower. Phoenixes will end up kind of killing everything, and these are all level 2, so worth a lot of experience. And yeah, they do level instantly. That's the one downside, I guess, of being elite. We can speed things up here as our fangs are making their way over, and that should be plenty of units remaining to take out these Phoenixes. And with a couple of sledges and arc lights there moving into the tower, we also do a decent amount of damage on round 2. And yeah, again, good stabilization here. Round number 3, we get 3 units. Now, here, there's a couple options, I guess. Stormcaller doesn't look too good because he has a lot of fast units, so it would be hard for me to hit everything. Vulcan could be an alternative. However, I already have arc lights and sledges, so yeah, it would be hard to fit in my comp. I already have a really strong chaff clear, I think. So instead, it's going to be the Mustangs here. There was also a Raiden offered, which can be interesting, but I didn't really think he would stay in steel balls. I already have a counter for that in the form of these sledges, so going for the Mustang just seems like the safe pick. Same thing for my opponent. It does match up well with his existing steel balls, and it's just such a powerful free unit. Mustangs on level 1 are usually not that impressive, but with levels, because of their fast attack speed and the fact that they can hit both air and ground, they can kind of become a, well, do-it-all unit, right? Jack of all trades. And this pack is very ahead of the curve. Now, already we see a Scorpion come out of our opponent against our triple sledgehammers. So opponent really does not like the fact that we have these sledgehammers. Mustangs do manage to save the tower just about. A couple of crawlers are there overshooting the tower because of the beacon. And luckily we don't get debuffed, but I mean, look at the damage on these guys. That's without range, by the way. And yeah, these Mustangs just absolutely chewing through my opponent's army. And round number 4, we get Assault Fortress Underground Threat. Photon Emission doesn't look too great, but Underground Threat should be a pretty easy pickup. Assault Fortress could be interesting as well, but on Elite, Giants are a bit expensive, so I don't necessarily like committing this early. If I go Giants, it will usually be because of a drop, and I try to prioritize small units. We did pick up some Marksmen last round, by the way, kind of as a counter to the Phoenixes, but they end up doing pretty well into these Scorpions as well. More Mustangs picked up, and the steel balls are sold, so it looks like we're facing a Mustang Scorpion push, which is a pretty classic combo, but I don't think it can sometimes kind of struggle to get off the ground, because the awkward bit is that if you range your Scorpion, they outrange your Mustangs. So there is a bit of awkwardness there. But let's see if he can pull it off. He should have an okay matchup here, at least into the sledgehammers. And we go for the underground in the back line. My opponent uses it defensively. We buy more crawlers. These are going to be useful anyway against my opponent's Mustang, since he only has 2 arc lights. We're also just trying to punish the fact that his chaff clear is not very strong. And the nice thing about Elite is that a level 2 pack of crawlers beats an underground threat. So I don't have to be that worried about my backline, and I can kind of play aggressive here. We also go for drill, by the way. Cheap tech. And it will allow us to win, hopefully, the fight here against the enemy crawlers. You can see most of them do go forward. And that's also, I think, got to do with the fact that he is a speed specialist. And yeah, the drill will easily make us win, so we should get a tower debuff. Left side looks really good. Mustangs there farming the enemy Mustangs, and the Scorpion goes down. We managed to pick up a level, and yeah, I mean, that's just round after round after round here of amazing tempo. And when a defense goes this way, it's just so comfortable to play. Especially on Elite, you just feel like you're way ahead of the curve. Round number 5, we get Amplifying Core. A good item for Mustangs. I tend to prefer the cheaper ones, like Laser Sight and Improved Firepower Control System, but Amp Core, they're certainly not a bad item at all. And the hit points can be somewhat useful, especially in the mirror, or against arc lights. Sometimes it can make them need another shot to kill the pack. Now we decide to pick up more Mustangs. Finally, we have some money. I still don't have the money to give them range though, so again, they're going to just stay unranged, but that's kind of fine when the rest of my army doesn't have range either. I should still have some good frontline, and yeah, the crawlers here are kind of the unsung heroes, really. You can see ranges coming out for my opponent on his Mustangs, but as you will see, these guys struggle a lot against blue crawlers. We go for a cheeky flank. There were no Mustangs back there last round, so trying to get another debuff. I do make a bit of a mistake here in the middle, by the way. This Mustang should not be in front of the crawlers, because you then get what we call crowd surfers. The Mustangs get pushed forward when the crawlers pass through them, and that's not really what you want. So those should have been to the side, and I should have probably left like space for a 4th Mustang pack. And I mean, look at this, right? Like, this was with a spawn in, by the way. And we also managed to kill some crawlers that came from behind the tower. Like, look at all these crawlers just march in. And those are high-level Mustangs, but they just take such a long time to kill the crawlers that you don't even need, like, the sledgehammers. If your opponent is spamming Mustang, honestly, like going for a lot of crawlers, using your deployments to get those can be very, very valuable. And we get another good turn there. Opponent now, by round 6, already down to 1350. Round number 6, we get more free units. Now, Wasp here doesn't look too good since both of us already are into Mustang. Sabers look kind of solid. Sabertooth can definitely go toe-to-toe with Scorpion. It's a cheaper unit, but it has more DPS. And my opponent there goes for the Farseer. There was also Raiden offer, but again, Raiden into Mustang, not the best. Raiden into Scorpion, not that useful. The Farseer could have been an okay pickup, but just felt like the Saber was a solid pick. We managed to grab another one, give it range, and that happens to be the same thing my opponent goes for on their Scorpions. But this is just a solid pairing, generally speaking. Sabertooth Mustang, great comp, especially for Elite. It's relatively cheap. Don't need any giants, but can definitely go even against some full, giant boards even. An opponent here goes for HE. Now, high explosive ammo, in theory, is meant to deal with chaff, but as you will see, it really doesn't help all that much. It's honestly a tech that I will probably just get rid of and run AP instead, because it just takes ages for them to kill crawlers still. Especially when I click something like Underground or a Subterranean Blitz. The Mustangs will simply not be able to chaff clear whatsoever. And you can see here, like, we still have crawlers incoming, and it just takes so long for the Mustangs to do anything. Sabers here are locked onto the right targets though, but ooh, very good shot from that level 2 Scorpion there. Does kill my marksman, but won't end up killing my Saber. And so with that, that should be yet another round going our way. Keep in mind, we haven't lost a single round yet. And now we get another underground threat available. My opponent does decide to pick that up, and I do too. There was an efficient light manufacturing there, but it's a bit late to be able to make use of that, in my opinion. Efficient light would be something that I pick up on round 4 if it shows up, and I'm not too far behind, but yeah. Here it just seemed like too big of an investment, and we decide to be a little bit cheeky by clicking the armor enhancement tech on our arc lights and add an arc light here to the flank. The idea being is that it's a really cheap tech. It also increases the hit points of the arc lights, and then on top of that, it'll make it so that these Mustangs can't deal damage to my arc lights. We pair it up behind the crawlers that we already had, and we use the underground to try and chew through these Mustangs on the flank. We also go for a second tech on our crawlers, so instead of going Subterranean Blitz, I decide to be a bit greedy here and go for Replicate. That is mostly a decision based off of the underground threat that was available this turn. I think otherwise Underground or Subterranean Blitz would have been the better alternative. But since my opponent is so low on hit points, I kind of tried to go for the gut shot and yeah, like kill my opponent through this underground and the amount of units or the amount of crawlers that we'll get from the Replicate. Opponent does add a Phoenix back on the field to try and deal with whatever may be back there. And that will actually be very useful from the looks of it. But now the crawlers are starting to come in and they do hurt. Now, luckily for my opponent, he does have a leveled pack of crawlers and he decided to pick up Drill. So the play there doesn't quite work out and the arc light will end up falling. And now we're the ones that are kind of struggling to kill the crawlers from the looks of it. Sabers do manage to lock on, but some of these Scorpions are quite tanky and we're not quite able to deal with the right side, so it looks like my opponent will pick up his first round here. A little bit sad, I guess, that the play didn't work out. Trying to close out the game here with the loan. My opponent was loaning as well because he was realizing that he was on death's door. But round 8, means that we get even more free units. First round that you can get the third rotation. Raiden, Tarantula, Rhino, and Wasp. Now, Rhino here looks quite good for me, I have to say. Opponent goes for it as well. And decides to tech Whirlwind. That's a pretty uncommon thing to see. It is a very good chaff clear tech, but Rhinos are inherently just kind of vulnerable, being a melee unit. So relying on it as your chaff clear is usually not that useful, but maybe, just maybe, as a unit drop, it can be really good supporting the Mustang. I decided to go for the Rhinos too, obviously. Armor is a great cheap tech, increases the hit points, and again, armor just a very useful thing against the Mustangs. We have another underground available. We tried to throw that onto this pack of fangs. Hopefully we can replicate off of that. And then we throw one Rhino at the tower with the beacon and one Rhino at the Scorpion. It looks like it might even run into my opponent's Rhino, but it does get beacon, so we'll have to see how this works out. We also do pick up the double shot now on the Sabers. That was something that was still available, and it will dramatically increase our DPS and maybe even allow us to one-shot some of these level 3 Scorpions now. Oh, looks like we move the underground threat to the right side, back where it was last round. Also, we add a missile. That does end up slowing the Rhino. Very happy with that. But yeah, we clicked... Oh, we didn't even click armor. Never mind. But yeah, opponent does not have armor. He has Whirlwind. So these Mustangs are kind of just killing the Rhinos. And that is not a successful play from our opponent. Looks like we weren't quite able to get into the tower again. But we did delay for quite some time. And now the Saber has set its eyes on that level 3 Rhino. Left side is crushing. And the question will be, can we kill all the remaining units and then take out our opponent, or will we need another round? If this Sabertooth survives, that's going to be 600 from just the Sabers, 700 from the Marksman, and with these Mustangs, it should be enough. And that is how we close out the game. A very comfortable defense here. Now, obviously, I got quite fortunate with my matchup pairing, I have to say. Fang Sledge is, I think, simply the best starting pack against something like a Steel Ball push. And we use it effectively. Having access to those level 2 arc lights means that we don't lack any DPS. There's no need for Marksman early on. We do a clever skip there on round 2, realizing that we need the money to be able to defend our left tower from a beacon. And then, yeah, from there on, kind of smooth sailing, picking the right cards, realizing that my opponent is really weak to crawlers, so investing in those, not being too scared to level them up, and clicking some techs on them. And that's simply how we close out the game. I hope that you liked this. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. If you want to stay up to date with my latest content, please do consider subscribing. If you want to see me live, check me out on Twitch. And with that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.